Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Tuesday Night Bull Ring. Sorry about last week. I was camping, and just I had internet, but it just wasn't good enough to try to do a chat. Plus, I was out camping, so um, I was like, screw it. I'm just gonna drink beer, kick back, and have watch the fire. Even though we didn't need it, I think it's the law. You got to have a fire no matter what. So anyway, so I'm back. Had a good time, and hopefully we'll have a good show for you. And I got Rosie here, and I got Matt from Resisted Tyranny, and I'll let Rosie do an intro right quick.
All right, good to be back. I think it's been a couple weeks since I've been here. Good to see everybody. Rosie O'Kelly channel, fun, goofiness, good times. Rosie Murphy channel, usually a little more serious with weekly or bi-weekly eco investment updates, and always glad to be here. Tuesday nights, we never really know where it's going to go, but it usually turns out pretty good. So always happy to be here and have Matt here too.
Well, thanks for being here, Rosie. I always appreciate you coming on. Matt, go right ahead, my friend.
I heard that your camping was actually a rehearsal for Brokeback Mountain 2. Is this true? Is this a fact? This is what I heard.
But we didn't do any video, and that's not why. But the only reason really we didn't do any videos because he don't put his kids on video, and it was just most of the time we was in a boat and stuff, and I just screw it, I ain't worried about doing a video. But I was with Pop's Quest was up here nearby me, camping out at a state park, and at Lake Joe Cassidy, for anybody in the area knows where that's at. And so I went up there and hung out with them for about 4 days, and we had a good time. But now he had his wife with him, okay?
Okay, I hadn't heard you deny it up until this point. Matt from Resisted Tyranny, Guns, Gear, and Politics here on YouTube. Check out rttstore.com. You can find a whole bunch of really cool patriotic t-shirts there. And all the social media links, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram. I'm sure there's more, but I can't remember. Google Plus community. So yeah, check all that out. And thanks for having me on, TR.
Yeah, thanks for being on here, Matt. And for anybody who don't know, there's been some problems getting on Google on the Hangout tonight, so that's why we started a few minutes late. And nobody's fault, just GoobTube. Yeah, but I did make a joke to Pops. We was off air or something. I was telling him, I was like, man, I'm almost afraid to make another video with you. Somebody's gonna think we're having an affair or some shit. Every time we turn around, we was together. But anyway, we got Rick. Is your six covered? You want to do an intro, brother?
Sure. Appreciate you inviting me on the channel as always. Hey everybody, how's it going? And that's about it, man. I got big plans. Stuck at work. It's my birthday, and guys are making dinner, and we're gonna do a little cake. So I'll be jumping off here for a few minutes, and then I'll be back on. But appreciate it as always. Thanks again.
Cool, man. Thanks for being on here.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, happy birthday, Richard.
It's legally Rick, no Richard, no Dick, none of that shit. It's Rick. But yeah, I'm half a 90 right now, so feeling good.
Well, I'm not even gonna go there.
Man.
Look at 90 and half a 90. Wow, it's such a coincidence.
I didn't know it was your birthday, man. Happy birthday. And damn it, I'm older than you too. Son of a bitch.
Yeah, we got baby Matt, the greatest guy here, and
The old broad.
Yeah, it's funny. Unless Pops, possibly, or at least Don. Trees are blowing. On average, I'm like usually the oldest looking one, but I'm on average the youngest one on these panels.
Yeah, I think I'm a few months older than Pops, if I'm not mistaken. I think he either just turned 48 or is about to turn 48 or something like that. So anyway, so all right. Well, we usually start off with talking about economics. I don't know how prepared you are, Rosie. If you want to talk about it, what's going on? I know last time we talked, kind of been paying attention to the stock market, and this is kind of sitting right there, and still. And I'm seeing more and more stories of people talking about the bubble. I mean, even Trump said something about the stock market being a bubble, and some different things. I've seen some big time people unloading stocks. It could be coincidence. I don't know, but anyway, what's your take on it?
I'm back on how old we are. I'm like 63% of 90, 90 years old. Fuck, I'm like creaking here. Well, anyway, it's great to be back, and hi everybody. And I'm trying to find I took this from. I like to copy things I see once in a while on Yahoo. I spend a lot of time there during the day, and they had a big story. And it was called "This Stock Market is Making No Sense for a Lot of Investors." And isn't that the truth there? And that's exactly what defines a bubble when you get into markets like we have now. And we are racking up new all-time highs. The S&P and the Nasdaq put in new all-time highs today. The Dow's been putting in new all-time highs. Welcome to Bubble Land. We've been talking about the possibility of a bubble for over a year because of low interest rates here and the risks that entails, and the way the Federal Reserve is really in the driver's seat now when it comes to, well, being at the helm of the economy, the last place that they should be. They put themselves front and center of what we're doing in this country, and they also have to exist in the real world too. I can't remember a time in investing on a macro or worldwide basis that has been as fractured and differentiated as it is right now. When you look at the way the United States is starting to perk a little bit, we had a pretty good job creation number last month. Firms around here are struggling to hire people, albeit they're low-end sort of jobs, which is another topic I want to touch on. Are we running out of workers in this country? But we're okay. But then you look over in Europe with all the stuff that's going on there, particularly with Britain, and they have a totally different set of dynamics. For the first time in a lot of years, Britain had to cut their interest rate. And, China, who knows? Japan, what goes on over there, it's like we're the only place that reasonably seems to be perking along. So anybody that's kind of questioning the bubble that we have right now is kind of hanging their hat on the fact, well, we're no worse than anybody else in the world. We're arguably a little better here, and I think that gives people some rationale for investing in this country. That and the fact that because interest rates seem poised to go higher, then that's also going to have an effect on the United States dollar, and it's going to make it more attractive for foreign people to put their money into the United States too, especially if they choose to get into the stock market, because not only do they have the potential appreciation of the stock itself, but they also have the double-barreled effect, the leveraged effect of having an appreciating currency on top of that. So it makes it a very attractive situation, but not too attractive if you're trying to get the economy geared up here. I'm starting to smell like a whiff of inflation here, too. One of the companies that we really don't talk about in a high-tech age is probably one of the lowest tech companies in existence in the United States, and that's United States Steel. which is, well, it's struggled for a lot of years to just barely stay solvent, hang on, stay relevant. But it's been perking up lately, and why has it been perking up? Because I get the sense that maybe commodities are starting to get a little bubbly here. I've talked about cotton for the last 6 weeks or so. I talked about cotton on here at 62 cents a pound. It's up to like 77 cents a pound now, and climbing. I'm seeing some activities in commodities that could be a precursor towards maybe the introduction of stagflation here in this country. Some people have asked me, what does a bubble look like, and how do we know when the bubble is reaching its peak? And I remember TR last year when I first came on, I brought a little show and tell today. I brought these magazines with me from 2005, and not that I was a subscriber to Fortune or Time magazine or Money magazine, but I knew at that time in June of 2005 that when a popular idea like investing in real estate hits the magazine covers of the popular investment magazines within 2 weeks of each other, and this Fortune was May 30th of 2005, and all the big stories about how we're all going to be rich and all going to be famous, and we're making our fortune in Las Vegas, and we're getting up early to stand in line with dozens of people to try to be first to be able to buy these overpriced units for sale. And then Money Magazine, the so-called smart guide to investing, came out with their own little special issue, not just a regular issue, a special issue to talk about the housing, and some of the subtitles are why it's still your best investment. All right, this is Money Magazine, guys. This is Money Magazine, okay? And then Even Time Magazine got in on it. This was 2 weeks later, June 13th, 2005, Home Sweet Home. Now, this was probably before a lot of your time out there, but these were indications to me at the time that this stuff is totally out of control, and I knew that the bubble was about to pop in here, so I went ahead and bought these magazines and saved them just on the expectation that one day this bubble would pop, and well, we know how it all turned out. So one of the guidelines you want to understand here in dealing with this market that we're in now is that the bubble can grow for quite a while here because there's nothing really to effectively stand in its way. Anybody that's broadly invested in the stock market doesn't have losses right now. They're all at all-time highs in their portfolio. Therefore, there's nobody in losing positions per se to liquidate. So we don't have that headroom of a prior market peak here. We're all in new, uncharted, new all-time high. We have the most stimulation we've ever had in the history of the world with interest rates at 500-year lows, the lowest in recorded history. I mean, what more do you need to be convinced that this thing is probably going to be epic when it blows up here? And even though, and I think TR and Matt and Rick, you'll agree, you don't hear many people talking about the stock market, even though we're at an all-time high. There's no cocktail party talk about it. The people in this country could care less, for the most part, about the market because it hasn't quite made the headlines of reaching what I call the spectacular point of its movement here, which is probably coming up over the next year or so. So pay attention for that. As long as I see that people could care less and don't give a hoot about the market, I feel very comfortable still being in the market, albeit with my mad money. I don't have a lot of my principal investments off the table, but I don't mind riding along on a bubble when it's in force. And will the Fed raise interest rates in September? Probably. But if they do, it'll be a very, very teeny tiny one. And it'll take many, many times for the Fed to act before this bubble bursts, I guarantee you. I wanted to talk about something else, though, because there's something really bad going on, too. underneath the surface that you don't hear talked about in the economy. You have insurance companies, and insurance companies in America and in the world are some of the backbone financial companies. They don't get the headlines that banks do, but they often hold asset bases much bigger than banks, like Prudential and Allstate and Aetna and the Hartford. All of these insurance companies have obligations that they owe on, right? Guaranteed investment contracts that they sell pension funds, or guaranteed rates of return, or annuities that they've sold that have certain rates of return that are guaranteed 2, 3, and 4%. Well, they're coming at a point now where they're practically doing everything except screaming to the Federal Reserve that interest rate environment is now killing us. We can't make money to pay off our obligations, whether it's state pensions, local pensions, whether it's insurance contracts, annuities. You can imagine the squeeze they're in when they go to roll over their own investments that they hold, the assets they hold, and they can only get 0.25%, 0.5%. They're effectively screwed when they owe 2 and 3, 4, and 5% on their obligations. So insurance companies are being squeezed to death right now. Now, I'll end on this note. Fuzz says they should have raised rates years ago. Yes, they should have. We're in a very imbalanced economy in this country right now with the Federal Reserve. And on the one hand, they're very fearful of Europe and all the stuff that's going on in Europe. But on the other hand, they know that they're building a bubble too. And now they have to start to worry when they potentially unwind the bubble one day that, well, they know what's going to happen because they've seen this movie before through history. So little by little, as I've said over the months, they continue to paint themselves into what's going to be an ugly corner when it's all said and done. But keep an eye on the insurance companies. They're really starting to get in their really, really tough pinch right now. And they're also thinking some people want to bring Glass-Steagall back, the 1930s Depression Act that separated investment banking from commercial banking. So there's a lot of things going on right now out there. But I guess the bottom line is the bubble's got a long way to go here, and you might as well keep rolling along with it.
Well, I think a lot of people don't pay attention to the stock market because they just don't know nothing about it. And I know I've said it before in the chat. I've talked to some people at work, and they didn't even know they was in the stock market, but they got a 401k. Yeah, I was like, yeah, you're in the stock market. Well,
the thing is,
I said, you got, maybe not. Go ahead.
Every second or third generation takes the bait. You have, like in the 1920s, you have coming out of the war, you had a terrible economic downturn in 1920-21 as defense contractors shut down with World War I winding up, and you had a really severe business drop at that time, and nobody talked about stocks. It was a rich person's game. But by the time they had finished pumping up that bubble and commercial companies and corporations were feeding money to lend to people that wanted to speculate too, by the time that came around, the government, the country was entranced, even though only about 40% of the people were involved in stock ownerships. It still captured a huge amount of headlines, and it was that big sucking vortex, and this is the danger of it. We've talked about this perverse law of supply and demand that works in investments as one of the only areas that the higher something goes, the more the demand goes up for it. In other words, when gold's at $200 an ounce, people are like, it's a lousy investment. But let it get up to 800, 700, 800, 900, 1,000. Boy, all of a sudden everybody starts, and the demand for it goes up. Well, that defies normal laws of economic behavior. So what happens at these big peaks is that you suck in the greatest amount of money at that top, and therefore you make the whole thing top heavy. And that's what blows a gigantic hole in the economy, because so much was tied up of liquid assets and cash at the very wrong time, that overnight, in a 30 or 40% drop, it can disappear like that and be gone. And therefore, a catastrophic loss like that definitely alters people's spending habits in the short and intermediate run. And that's what kicked off the Depression, that catastrophic change in spending habits because of a huge hole that was suddenly blown in. So you got to be very, very careful about investing, climate, and things. Do you want to buy a house when you're going to the newsstand and you're reading these kind of magazines? I don't think so. But there were a lot of people that stood in line and bought a shitload of real estate that couldn't wait to get their money down, no money down, and liar loans to be involved in that. So hence we had a catastrophic collapse in real estate that's taken a lot of years. It's still not recovered from that. So, I'm just trying to make the point that we're building something big here, but at the same time, it's something very dangerous.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I can tell you that I don't pay attention much to the stock market. The most I hear about it is when Rosie talks about it, and it's for a few reasons. I understand its role, but I also understand that it's not the defining factor for our economy either, and because it can be manipulated so easy, is one of the reasons why I've never. Well, I don't invest money. I'm not in the stock market. I don't do that. But it's one of the reasons that I've never really paid much attention to it. Like I said, I understand its role and I understand its level of importance, but I also understand how easily it can be manipulated and how easily the people in the stock market, that are the traders and things like that, how easily they freak out and all of a sudden shit has hit the fan on Wall Street. And come to find out, it wasn't that big of a deal to begin with, and that's why I don't pay a whole lot of attention to it. Not because I don't understand it, but I don't use it, and
that's why I've talked consistently on here that it's the stock market and the economy don't always have to go hand in hand. In the longest run, of course, they do. The stock market eventually and totally mirrors, usually in a fatally reverse and perverse kind of way. It tends to get over pessimistic when the bottom is reached and over optimistic when the top is reached. But it just loosely follows our economy here. But the point is, the Fed is what's driven this market. It bears no relation to commercial activity in the nation now. And this is what's happened over the last 30 years as the Federal Reserve has totally taken over, and the United States Treasury have totally taken over the job of trying to steer the economy now. And never before in history, except for in socialist or communist situations, have we seen central banks take on such a powerful role, to the extent that they're hurting backbone companies like we've talked about, banks and insurance companies that are just struggling in this type of environment. But they'll tell you it's all peachy because the market's going up and all that. Well, the trickle down's not as strong if the foundation isn't there to have a good economy. And the Fed, I've said this for over a year too, the Fed just believes that low interest rates are the cure-all for everything. And actually, you have to have the conditions for prosperity. If low interest rates were the key, Japanese would be the richest people on the face of the earth, because they've had basically zero rates for 10, 15, 20 years. It just doesn't work that way. And I think, unfortunately, Matt, I see a situation where this market will start to make spectacular sort of short-term gains, where I wouldn't be surprised potentially if it maybe was to leap 300 or 400 points in a day, and then it starts making the lead story in the news, and then you start hearing about the good times and the money to be made, and all of a sudden people start, seeing this on the cover of magazines and start jumping in and learning and going to community college courses on the market. You know, there's a whole generation that has to relearn the lessons that the generation of the 1920s learned. We've not had a big market smash really since that time, and I'm just worried that we have all the conditions to build up that same kind of thing again. A little knowledge is a dangerous thing.
Yeah. Well, kind of even what you're just talking about, as far as if it does start making big gains and drawing attention, kind of like those magazines you was putting up a while ago. When all the news and media and what have you are telling you to go this way, it may be a red flag to run the other way. I don't. Why are they propping this up? Why are they pushing this? You know.
Well, you know, that's exactly right. I mean, it's a red flag because by the time you've heard about it, like, who's left to buy, right? I mean, by the time the Joe on the street gets the news that there's money to be made, he's usually, it's called the greater fool theory, the last person down the line buys something, and then unfortunately he turns around when it comes time to sell and there's nobody behind him to sell to. He was the greater fool and the last one in the elevator before they cut the cable. So you know, this is what I'm driving at here is we have this psychology aspect. It's underappreciated. This is the Fed doesn't measure this shit. The Fed doesn't have degrees in psychology. They don't understand the way the mass psychology works, like the gold market of 1978 to 1980, like the real estate boom of 2000 to 2005. It's all, you do better with a degree in psychology than a degree in investing when it comes to understanding market psychology. So, you know, now contrast this. This was 2005, and in 2011, in May of 2011, when I bought this place, I had people practically hanging on my leg, telling me, crying in tears, that I'm making the biggest fucking mistake in my life buying real estate in May of 2011, and when in reality that was the absolute bottom part of the market there, and you know, consequently the house is almost 150% up since that time. But I'm just saying, the popular psychology can be very out of phase with the reality here, and we're at a point now where the Fed has no way to taper in that psychology now and straighten that out, short of raising rates and precipitating a bad market event here, a crash or something like that. And the higher it goes, the more calamitous it's going to be when it occurs. So I'm just saying, even though people say I'm not in the market now, there's a lot of people that will get drawn in as we start to have some potentially spectacular up days and other things that really define the end of a bull market, climb slowly over the years, and then at the very end it almost has a parabolic straight up spike to it. And you know, that spike is the most profitable part, but it's also the most dangerous part too.
Yep. Yeah, I'm still learning a lot about the economy. I've learned a lot doing these chats with you, but I hadn't even really been paying attention much before that. I had started paying attention, and reading more history than more what was going on at the time. So.
Well, the good thing about UTR is that you work for a living, which is a plus, and you're a taxpayer, and you actually have a life, so that's a good thing. You know, there's more to your life than that. So, but it's fun to talk about it. It's fun to predict it, and it's fun to see it come true as the weeks go by and the months go by and things.
Yeah, there's a little conversation going on the side chat. There's a few of us talking about investing in brass, lead, copper, steel. That's what a lot of us invest in.
And we've talked about that on here
Yeah.
before with Rosie. You know, there's almost always a return, even the cheapest. You know, even like high points. You know, some of the least expensive firearms. You buy a high point for $150, you're at least going to get that back out of it. But as far as the vast majority of popular firearms out there, you know, not your really, really cheap like Cobras and stuff like that, but the vast majority of your cheap firearms out there, you can get a return on them. It might take a year. I mean, but that's really no different than, you know, low risk stock market stuff. I mean, your return on those things are, you know, very little short term, usually. So yeah, that's, you know, beyond the whole prep, you know, beyond the prepping thing, you know, as far as an actual investment, you know, when it comes to monetary, yeah, for me, and again, I understand the role the stock market takes, and I'm not arguing that with Rosie at all, but for me, firearms, ammo, magazines, things like that, and I don't mean Playboy, I mean rifle magazines, gun magazines. Yeah, that's where my investments go because I'm pretty well guaranteed a return out of it, if not at least breaking even.
And I seen my dad do that when I was younger. I mean, I didn't know what was going on at the time, but he always, and this is, you know, we're talking like in the 70s and 80s, and, you know, I mean, we think guns can be bought cheap here and there now. I mean, they was really cheap then. I guess with the rate of inflation, maybe they wasn't as cheap as I think of, but he always had a bunch of guns, and he tried having his own business. He did have his own businesses, and if times got hard, business went down, he'd sell a few guns, you know. And then
Well,
when
just
things got going again, he would buy more guns.
yeah, well, it's also reflected in the realities of Smith and Wesson Holding as a company too. I mean, in 2012, the shares were worth $2.94. They're $29.72 now. I mean, that's a tremendous investment. We are at a new all-time high here. But what's probably going to happen is this: you're going to have this surge of fear as Hillary's potentially coming into office, and then the smart money will probably be stepping off the second that they pop the cork on the champagne at the inauguration, because all the greatest fear will have already been built into the market at that particular time. And then at that point, perversely to people, that's the point it'll start to go down and go the other way. This is where the psychology comes in, and I'm telling you about, yeah, guns are a great investment, you know, utility of them as well as the money value of them, for sure.
Well, and when you say fear, because there's a couple, you know, especially on YouTube, especially when we talk about prepping, especially when we talk about economics and things of that nature, there is two, you know, and just to make the separation between the two, there are two different fears. There is the fears where people are freaking out over nothing, you know, and it happens every day. And then there's the justifiable fears, where when you mention Hillary potentially getting in office, from a Second Amendment, from a firearm standpoint, that is a completely justifiable fear. Other ones aren't. You know, there are other ones aren't, and those also get built into the market, like you said. You know, by the time that date comes around, like if it's a specific date, something's supposed to happen here, or this person's supposed to get elected, or whatever. You know, there are those fears that, like you said, get built into the market, but then there are justifiable ones as well.
Yeah, I guess my point is because, well, we live in a climate now where the possibility of Hillary Clinton being elected is very real. So the word gets out amongst preppers and amongst NRA and amongst other people that, well, we've certainly gotten the word. Jen and I have stocked up on the stuff that we want to have. We're not alone in the world. We feel like the news is coming out now such that they're off their dime, they're moving, they're getting the things that they need in such numbers and in such preparation for that. That level of demand will not come probably at the time after she's elected, the reality will probably come in for, well, things will be okay, nobody's grabbing our guns, or the demand will start to cool down and decline for a while until such time as maybe there's a shit hits the fan moment, and then there's an executive order signed to close all all seesaw sales of firearms. I mean, you can see something like that, but I guess I was thinking in terms of the preparing stage is always the strongest kind of demand, and then you have what I call the sensationalism that comes like, oh my God, on election day Hillary got elected, fuck, now what? And it's like you've probably already had that peak demand of people prepping in possibility of that actually happening, and that's how I can envision a Smith & Wesson, for example, start to turn down in the market at that time, because they'll be on a declining demand, because most of the people that want to buy have bought in preparation of that sort of event. It's not to say you can't have another one down the road, but you can feel it building up now. I could feel it at Cabela and Reno when I went there, and talking to them about demand and things like that they're having the greatest years they've ever had. Understandably, I just wonder if next year will be as good, even if nothing happens in the way of orders or moves to limit arms and other things in this country.
I think if Hillary does get elected, even if no gun legislation is put forth anytime soon, the demand's going to go out the roof no matter what. That happened with Obama, where nothing was really done, nothing significant at least. It might have been little stuff, but the demand just went out the roof, and it ain't hardly stopped.
Well,
the point I'm making to you is you have that demand that crests with, we all follow the polls, okay? What does she have, 9 points across the nation? Or, the likelihood, the Vegas line is that she gets elected president right now. So people are already making those moves to stock up and get the stuff they need. Then comes November 6th, she gets elected, and then you have 2 months till inauguration. Now, nobody in their right mind is going to wait till inauguration day to then buy at that point, like they were suddenly shocked. Oh my God, Hillary's the president today. You probably have a period of where demand starts to taper off at that point, because everybody feels settled that they got what they wanted, and let the games begin at that point. And that was the only point I'm making about the synchronization of demand with the actual realization of the event that happens.
And to be fair, TR, when it comes to like when Obama got in office, there has been some legislation passed. There has been some of that stuff done. A lot of it has hit our wallet. But when it comes to imports and things like that, there's been a little bit done. A lot of people freak out about executive orders when it comes to gun control, because we all know it can't happen. That's why 3 months later, there's always the CNN article says Congress failed to do anything about gun control. It's like, yeah, no shit, because president can't fucking pass those executive orders. He can't make law. Anyway, one of the biggest differences between when Obama came into office and now is the empty Supreme Court seat. That's the big thing. Hillary doesn't have to fucking talk about executive orders. She doesn't have to say shit about guns. She could, and if she got in office, she wouldn't have to open her mouth about guns once, because she's going to place that person in the Supreme Court seat, and they're going to do the work for her. That's the big difference.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Absolutely. And so when these states get more and more restrictive, and we don't even have to go on the federal level, just states, and then it's like they can damn near pass any gun law they want, and it just keeps going through. Yeah, it's fine. That's constitutional. Yeah, that's a big danger right there.
Yeah, and you bring up the states. I mean, states on average in the last 8 years have passed fantastic Second Amendment rules. Second Amendment laws. Went from 2 states that were constitutional carry to what? There's 11 now, or 10, something like that, 10 or 11. Uh, the FF firearms free, yeah, the FFA, the Firearms Freedom Act, where these states have passed legislation saying that when it comes to NFA type weapons and shit like that, if they're built into the in state or purchased in state, you don't have to follow federal guidelines and all this other stuff. Basically telling the federal government to get bent when it comes to gun laws in that state. I mean, there's been a fantastic amount of Second Amendment legislation that has come out over the last 8 years on a state level. Yeah, it should rightfully scare the hell out of people. Second Amendment supporters. It should rightfully scare the hell out of Second Amendment supporters if she gets in office, because yeah, she doesn't have to say a thing. And most people ought to be smart enough now that executive orders aren't going to make new gun laws, But that empty Supreme Court seat, that's a killer right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Mule Team 66 out there. We've talked many times about there is no choice. I don't care if you can't stand Trump, you got to vote for him. If you care about many rights that the Constitution guarantees us, yeah, there is no choice.
Can I change gears here for a second from the economic standpoint and the presidential standpoint? Fucking this whole thing with Trump calling on Second Amendment supporters to stop Hillary and liberals freaking out about it. Oh my God. How? I mean, anybody with an IQ over a mud puddle, can look at what Trump said and recognize what he meant, and it has everything to do with that Supreme Court seat. It has everything to do with that Supreme Court seat. But these water-headed idiots are like, oh, he's calling for the assassination of Hillary, and oh my God.
Well, it's like anything else they've talked about him. Oh, he's a racist. And anybody that's against Trump asked him, it's like, well, how's he a racist? And they can't tell you because he ain't done nothing to say he's racist, or any of the other points. The same thing with that, with the, damn, I froze up. Okay, anything else?
TR, it's not what he says, it's what the media says he says that carries the mail. That's the reality.
Yeah, I mean, if you got people...
How many people watched live Trump's speech at the Detroit Chamber or whatever it was on Monday afternoon? They'll get this spin on it from whatever the media says.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of media spin, and it ties into what you said a little bit ago, Rosie, when you said about Hillary being ahead in the polls. Anybody that follows me on Facebook knows I make videos on Facebook probably 3-4 times a week for my truck on my way to work, just little cell phone videos. And this morning's was about that. This morning's was about the mainstream media polls, how CNN, MSNBC, they talk about Hillary being 9 points ahead, 6 points ahead, 8 points ahead, whatever the poll is of the day. And people need to understand that those polls don't mean anything. Those mainstream polls, even if they're from Fox News and say that Trump is ahead, those polls mean nothing. Those polls are cherry-picked numbers based upon how many Democrats they surveyed and how many Republicans they surveyed and what the demographic is in each city that they surveyed them in. So when today's poll could say she's 9 points ahead, well, guess what? They polled Philadelphia and Detroit today. I mean, I don't know that those are the places, but they polled Philadelphia and Detroit today. So, of course, she's going to be ahead. But yesterday they polled Tucson and, you know, Tiffin, Ohio. Well, Trump's ahead. You know, that's how those fucking polls work. And what people need to pay attention to is social media, because that's where the real polls are. Where people are talking, because those what you see on social media is what America is saying. And you know, even back during like the Bundy Ranch thing, the reporter out of Vegas said, if you want to know what's going on in the United States, you turn to social media. And that's when they started talking about, you know, people on social media, what they were saying about Bundy Ranch. You know, what are people saying about this? Trump is crushing Hillary in reality. But those polls show something completely different. Trump is on the verge of like Ron Paul status, like filling stadiums and shit like that. And Hillary can't fill a fucking shoebox. You know, she has like, you know, 100 people that are huddled around her, and that's all the wider angle the lens will go is those 100 people. And that's it. You know, so these are the things that people need to look at and realize that's what America is saying. We don't want her. We want him. And then Gary Johnson, as much as I hate that liberal douche, he's only 2%, I think, right now, 2% off from being in the debates. And most people don't realize that either, because these mainstream media outlets don't talk about it.
Yeah, hell, even
I don't know. I've based a lot of my stuff more on looking at the Electoral College and the way that shapes up, and the preponderance of Democrats versus Republicans registered. And I'll put it this way: Trump will have to run a perfect campaign. He's got a lot of headwinds that Hillary doesn't have in the states that she probably has a hammerlock on. It's going to be hard. I mean, grant me that. It's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, it'll be close. That most of the time they are. You don't see too many landslides on the presidential election. I ain't saying they don't happen, but I've kind of looked back at it. Most of the time, on average, they're pretty close. So, and that has a lot to do with what you're talking about. You know, you got your blue states and red states, and then they're like, okay, that's a given. That's going to happen that way for the most part. And it's all the other ones that can go either way, and that ends up deciding the race, you know.
AZ Patriot made a good comment out there, and I have read about this. He says, Matt, for the first time in history, the Libertarian candidate isn't taking votes away from the Republican candidate. 90% of Johnson's voters are taken away from the, or are taken from the Never Hillary campaign. And if you guys remember, back when we were talking about this, when there were still a gazillion people running, I had said that I hoped Hillary got the nomination instead of Bernie, because Bernie voters aren't going to vote for Hillary, and that's a big loss for her. But Hillary voters would have voted for Bernie just to keep Trump out of office, because they just walk that Democrat line no matter who's running. They would have flip-flopped just as fast as Bernie flip-flopped when he didn't get the nomination and started you know, pushing for Hillary, even though he spent a year telling everybody she was an evil bitch. You know, that was one of the reasons why I was hoping Hillary got the nomination, is for that reason, because there's a lot of people in the Democrat circle that aren't going to vote for her.
Well, I look at like I said, the Electoral College. I look at the popular vote could be reasonably close, and the electoral vote could be way out of whack. It could be way off to her side. I mean, that possibility remains there in the way if you look at the way those those numbers come in versus popular vote. We've had election before where, well, I think Gore got more votes than Bush, but Bush still won in the final electoral count when Florida was put over to him. But I'm just saying you could definitely have that where I just like I say, I do the math. I look at the blue states. I look at the states that are dependably red, and I just think there's just too many big numbers to be changed. But of course, there's still a couple months till the election anyway, so anything could happen between now and then.
Yeah, it's I, I think I really think a lot of it's propped up by the media because most of the media is very liberal media that, and the Republicans ain't helping anything. You know, your big Republicans ain't helping anything by damn near denouncing Trump or pretty much denouncing Trump. But what it's done is it's put a lot of Americans in limbo because it's like I've talked to people that I don't like Hillary, but then I don't like Trump, and they'll give me a reason, and not that I'm an expert or whatever, and I'll say because they think that's the only choice they got, and yeah, me like I said, I'm gonna vote for Trump, but I had this girl, she was talking, and she told me why she couldn't vote for Trump, but she didn't want to vote for Hillary, and I was like, I mean, she was actually to the point where she was saying like, well, I don't really want to vote, and I was like, there's a lot of candidates. Like I said, you can vote Libertarian Party. I said, hell, vote Green Party. I don't care what you vote. Just go vote. But don't vote for Hillary if you don't like her. And if you don't like Trump, don't vote for Trump. And she was like, well, oh, I didn't know they. She didn't even really know there was other parties. I was like, hell, last time I voted, there was a list for president. It was Libertarian, Green Party, these other parties I ain't never heard of. I don't know what they stand for or anything else. I said, but
Well,
but still go vote.
the other thing, TR, is back to the economy. Is the job numbers are spinning upward now to creating 250,000 jobs in a month. I mean, that a lot of that economic shakiness is starting to wear off right now, and people are feeling a little more comfortable. That's going to be another headwind that I think Trump's going to be flying into. That now this can be something that can be contrived and temporarily put up. I mean, it's not beyond the scope of the government to influence elections. I mean, FDR had his Secretary of Agriculture, Henry Wallace, in 1936 re-election with marching orders to keep the price of wheat above 60 cents a bushel at all costs to make sure they could get that farm. But I mean, it does happen. But I'm saying the numbers and the economy is looking like a tailwind for her now, and kind of like a headwind for Trump. Not in places like Detroit, but maybe in the mainstream a little more. So,
But
we'll
I do
see.
think I do think the whole Bernie Sanders thing has, and when I was getting back talking about how the media is pumping up like how Hillary's doing good and blah blah blah, and Trump's just a dickhead and whatever, basically is what they're saying. But even at the DNC, soon as Hillary got the nomination, which they all kind of knew that was going to happen, hell, all the Bernie Sanders get people left. That damn DNC was like a half full.
Well,
it was full of NBC.
they had that goddamn super delegates fuck Bernie up. I mean, that's party politics at its finest. I mean, I can't stand Hillary Clinton myself. I'm not sure I'm going to vote for Trump, and I'm sure as hell not going to vote for Hillary Clinton. Guarantee that. So
I think kind of what Matt was going on is it's damn near like the stock market. It's a fake number. It's being pushed up, and I think that's what's happening with Hillary, because you got a lot of Democrats just like talking about this going to the Libertarian Party. They're going Green Party, and a lot of them are going to Trump. They feel so rejected and done wrong by the DNC that they're like flipping parties just in spite. You know, I've seen many interviews. I ain't saying it's a majority or nothing like that, but I've seen several interviews with people saying, "Well, I was a Bernie, you know, supporter, but after all this and the emails come out and all that, they're like, well, I'm going to vote for Trump." You know, and I'm not saying that's enough to turn the tide, but not everybody in the Democratic Party is behind Hillary. There's probably the percentages, as much as they say people don't like Trump, I'd say Trump still got a majority, a bigger majority of the Republican Party pulling for him than Hillary has Democrats pulling for her, percentage-wise. I could be wrong on that, but from what media I watch, that's what I see.
Well, Trump needs to bring it back down a notch, man. I mean, he's getting support from all these people, and myself included, and then, you know, you'll see him on something, and he's ruining the possibility of getting more votes by, you know, saying some outlandish bullshit where he could have had somebody that was on the fence that he could have got if he would have just kept in a straight and narrow, and did what he needed to do, and be as professional as he can. And he's kind of going off on these little tangents.
I worry about that too, Rick. That's a good point.
Which is ruining it for him. And I will never vote for Hillary, but ever. But I think he's losing. He has the majority of votes for people like us that are, you know, are fed up with the way the government's working and all this stuff. You know, I can't believe Hillary and all the bullshit that she's pulling.
Yeah, so what those people are going to do is they're just not going to vote. You know, they're not going to vote for Hillary, but they were going to vote for Trump. Now they're, oh man, it's just, it looks like a loose cannon on deck. Forget about it. I'm taking off this year. I'm not going to vote in this election. I don't like any of them. You know, blah blah blah. You know.
Well, I think everybody needs to vote. I mean, every vote that's not for Trump, like we've talked about in the past, is a possibility of one extra vote for Hillary, realistically. You know, so.
Well, if you're going to say outlandish shit, be strong about it. Say, this is what's wrong with America. People don't say the shit that's got to be, you know, turn it into a positive at least, if it's something that you think a lot of people believe, but then you just float it out there and walk away from it, and it just kind of hangs there. Make it a strength if you believe that. Rally more people to your cause. Not, you know, you risk turning people off from voting. Like, I know people that
exactly. And Hillary's
vote for Hillary. They're not. They sure as hell, but they can't. They don't feel it with Trump.
I know I really hope Trump gets in there and does what he says he's going to do, and you know, and that's the thing we all have to gamble on. But it's you know, you take two evils and you got to pick the best one that works for your thought process and what you feel is correct. So, I mean, people got to vote. They got to definitely get out there and vote.
Well, that's one thing about this election. Trump might not be, say, the smartest shit, say the right thing, but I don't think he's evil. And almost every time we've had an election, it is the lesser of two evils. I ain't saying Trump's going to be a good president, but I don't think he's truly evil. I don't think he has evil intentions. Where most of the presidential runs I've seen in my lifetime, it was a choice between two evils, which one I thought was the less. And I don't mean like they were devil worshippers or anything like that. Some of them may have been, but I mean just, you know, Hillary, just like Hillary, the rest of them are the same way, the Bushes and all that. They're in it for the money, the power, they're corrupt.
I don't know how people in the South stand it, you know, two New Yorkers for fucking president. It's gotta be a sad day in Dixie. That's all that's on the fucking plate. You know, those two.
Good point.
Jesus. I mean, you got to figure some working guys. I mean, I hear it all the time. And moderately paid, lower paid people, they get sometimes turned off by Trump for being rich and stuff. And you know, and a glamorous wife, he carries some extra baggage and stuff when he steps on the stage because he has been successful and stuff. It's you know, it's a tough message to resonate sometimes with the rank and file workers too.
I think, I mean, there's there's a lot of things that Trump says that I agree with. There's some of it that I don't. I am voting for him. I think I've made that pretty clear at this point. But I think my favorite thing about him is he's not a politician. You know, he's the only one running that hasn't made a career out of being a politician.
Yeah, and I think that might hurt him slightly when it comes to campaigning. You know, there's not enough bullshit in him.
Well,
and if he surrounds himself, go ahead,
I was just going to say that's probably why he says a lot of the things he does, because he's not a politician, so he's not polished in bullshitting people just for votes. You know, he's about making money and doing wheeling and dealing and throwing, you know, big feasts and shit, you know. So he's more like the average American out there.
Yeah.
It's just that he does have money and power. He's just not, you know.
I think he's the best one for America right now, the way it is, with all the shit we got going on, with people trying to come in here, and you know, he's the guy for the job right now.
And somebody brought up I think it might have been David. I don't remember who it was. Somebody brought up the comment because we were talking about people freaking out over Trump's bankruptcies. You know, his 4 or 7 of them or something. The number that's so low it's not even worth mentioning. You know, in comparison to successful businesses. But somebody had mentioned, well, who better to run a bankrupt country than a person that knows how to pull a fucking business out and make it successful? You know, somebody who's done it.
He's already getting stuff to be worked on. Think of Carrier, the AC group, right? If you guys want to be over there, we're going to tax the crap out of you. He's trying to keep people from moving into countries, you know, to set up their business and then send all that stuff back here without getting taxed. I mean, the guy's smart as hell. He knows if you want to turn the country around and get jobs and, you know, equal pay and all that kind of bullshit. That's what's got to happen. Is you got to have a guy that can run a multi-billion-dollar company, you know.
But you got to have a guy that can also get along with Congress to make shit happen, you know. And as much as Ronald Reagan was a visionary, not much of his shit ever really got through Congress because he had a Democrat Congress at that time. It's very difficult. Only every 50 years or so you get that alignment where you have all, you know, a Democrat Congress, Democrat President, Republican Congress, Republican. You know, they're rare. And as Matt says, I'm glad when shit's fucked up and nobody can do anything. Well, I expect the same kind of thing whoever gets in. You know, Hillary wants this, she gets in, she wants this Supreme Court justice or that one. Man, it's going to be a fucking bloodbath in the United States Senate when that shit comes down. You know, it's going to be ugly as hell.
You know, somebody who was it out in the chat? Winging it said that's why he has Pence to deal with Congress, and that's a good point. I mean, if you look at the potentials and the people he's talked about doing certain jobs and all that, I don't even think his concern is going to be Congress. Honestly, not in a bad way. Not like Obama's concern isn't Congress because he thinks he can just bypass Congress. Not in that fashion, but I don't even think, you know, he has a concern about dealing with Congress himself because he is going to surround himself by people that are capable of doing so.
And that's what good leaders do.
Yeah, I heard that when Kennedy got elected. You know, I'll have Lyndon Johnson as my go-to guy because he was Speaker of the House or whatever, big shot in the House, and then he ended up really fucking this country when he took over. So.
Well, and I think too, and not that they don't all do it a little bit or a good bit. Well, Trump's already done it, but if he's got a good idea and it seems to be the people want it, if it don't get passed, he'll probably make up a list and have that shit posted. Well, this person here didn't vote for this shit, so they're not with you, America. He did that the other day, here the last day or two with those 50 big Republicans or whatever that wrote him a letter saying they openly oppose him and all that, and he's made a speech and called them out and said, well, see, these are the people that screwed up your country, so we don't need them anyway. And I was going to
Well,
make
it's going
another
to be.
point.
I really don't envy whoever gets the job. It's going to be tough as hell. The problems that we're building up. We've certainly talked about debt levels and the problems worldwide. You have this radical Islam overtaking Europe. I mean, there's really major fucking problems out there right now. Whoever gets that job doesn't have an easy road to it. I'll tell you that. I wouldn't want to be doing it.
I think whoever gets in, we're gonna have some portion of civil unrest. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter. Either side of the coin is gonna draw one side or the other. There's gonna be a lot of stuff going on. I think there's so much hatred for each side that it's gonna be bad.
I don't think so. I think you're wrong. I'll say it. I think you're
Wouldn't
wrong.
be the first time.
No, I think that if Trump gets in, we're going to see civil unrest. Maybe not on a massive national scale, but we're going to see riots, we're going to see looting, we're going to see all that stuff from folks like the terrorist organization Black Lives Matter. And I've said this before, that conservatives, gun owners, people like us, are too reserved. We're too polite, so to speak. And because there's been plenty of opportunity and plenty of reason to act the same way, so to speak, as these other groups have. And we didn't. We never have. Now, that could be to our detriment. Maybe we should have. But there's no amount of evidence that tells me that if Hillary gets in, you're going to see conservatives taken to the streets and doing those things.
Well, it'll be one step closer at the least.
Well, there'll be things that conservatives aren't going to do, like give up their guns and shit. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
It'll be more interesting the shit that they don't do than what they potentially. That'll be a real, suppose the Supreme Court comes in and now it's 5-4 the other way now instead of before. I'm not going to give mine up. I don't want to be on the police detail that's going door to door to collect
I don't even have any. I sold all mine.
Yeah, they're long gone.
Yeah, I sold them to TR.
Yeah, they.
Put TR under the bus. Yeah, there you go.
No, I would never do that.
Yeah. Trust me, you don't want to try to take his heel I live on.
Oh, there we go.
I got the high ground. Yeah,
I'm
I think you'll make a
interested
good
in.
point.
I want to kind of go back to this, if Matt doesn't matter. This thing of polling in our country, and of course we all know that if you're hired as a pollster, you generally try to give what your hiring organization wants to see. That is, if you want to be hired again to do the job. So we got the Zogby poll, we've got the Wall Street Journal poll, we got all these different polls. Does polling have any value to you, Matt, in this at all, or do you think that all polls just reflect? I think there's some that try to be as unbiased as possible, like I think the Wall Street Journal, being a Rupert Murdoch company now and a very conservative company, I think they're very they might try to steer things the opposite direction, and they're still getting the same kind of 9 percentage point numbers. I'm just wondering if polling has any value at all. I know polls don't vote, but for steering opinion and keeping the vote in the channel, so to speak, for somebody like Hillary, if it's consistently put out there that it's 9 points, 10 points, or whatever, that sends a message to voters too, like, it's over, no sense voting, blah blah blah. Hillary's gonna, that's the effect that I think that polls have, the detrimental effect that
No,
they have.
I don't think they mean anything as far as accuracy, but no, I think they have. I think they can be used, for lack of better words, a weapon. And yeah, it's very much like brainwashing, I guess, because if you constantly and continuously hear she's 10% ahead or 10 points ahead, and it's drilled into you over and over and over, and I mean that's how slaves are made. Is that a certain idea is drilled in your head over and over and over and over and over again until you just give up. And so yeah, I think that the polls could have that effect, whether they're accurate or not. But again, I don't put any faith in their accuracy. There's a guy at work, perfect example. Of course, he's not exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer. Hell, he's not the sharpest butter knife in the drawer now that I think about it. But he says to me all the time, "Well, it looks like she's going to win. She's 6 points ahead in the poll." And I just look at him and go, "We had this conversation yesterday about polls and all this other stuff, and you keep falling into it. You keep going, well, fuck it. It doesn't matter at this point because she's so far ahead." So yeah, those polls can be used as a weapon, especially against the weak-minded.
That's the way. That's my point. I think they're used more as a weapon by a lot of polling organizations. So I'm very careful about the pollster that I follow, and I try to find one that's pretty much independent, that doesn't really have a dog in the race.
Well,
but,
that's like
I
doing
think
a
it
poll.
shapes opinion. Sorry, Rick.
That's right. That's like doing a poll in here. Right now we got basically 54 people, so let's just say it was one per state, even though there's a few extra. If you were to question all these people right now in the external chat, you would probably get a huge majority that were Trump fans, but it's because we're polling from people that are like-minded to a certain thing right now. You know what I mean?
I would have to argue with you because our great and honorable president says there's 57 states.
Okay. Well, that's what you get for listening to confusion.
Yeah.
I would like to say you're wrong, Matt. Just because
somebody else put it out there as soon as I said it too. Yeah.
Yeah, he actually said that. I've seen it. It's on video. It wasn't some quote that somebody wrote down. No, there's video on it. I think we visited 57 states now.
Wow. There you go. More ammo against that dumbass. But if we took a poll right now, we already got two people who got Trump. I'm obviously a Trump fan. But I would bet you the majority, if not 98% of them.
Well, okay, a good barometer, I guess, for this would be remember when 90% of all Americans wanted stricter gun control? Remember when that was the talking point?
Yeah, and it got blasted down.
And it got blasted. Like, there's not a single poll other than the one that they talked about that matched that. And it's because, and I can't remember the other city, but they polled Philadelphia and another liberal city and came up with 90%. They had 2 high crime cities and 2 blue cities, and that's where they got their number from. And that tells you how these polls are ran. That's all you need to know about these polls, because every social media poll, every other poll out there, I can't even remember some of the big pollster, professional poll names, but yeah, the rest of them say about 40% want some sort of, agree with some sort of background check, but it's fine the way it is. And then there was even less numbers that said, they wanted universal background checks. That was something like 20%. But those were national polls that were that were taken from all over the country, not just cherry-picked places.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, you can always get a number you want. You ask the right question to the right people, you can get whatever percentage you want, like you said.
But the problem is the sheeple out there, they just see the number and hear the headline or see the headline, and that's all they know. They don't know, how the poll was took and where it was took, what the question was exactly, or and there it gets into influencing the people to think their way.
That's shaping the message. That's right. That's the important job that's done. Interpreting those results. I could have the worst poll results in the world, and I could put them in a way that would say, "Whoa, well, at least it was better. He's gaining over the last poll, and then moving in the right direction." You can put any kind of spin on anything you want.
Yeah, and if we can keep Trump out of saying stupid shit, he's probably going to get a few more supporters as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, some good examples of this is one of Rosie's chats a couple months ago or something like that. I can't remember. I think it might have been before May, before I went back to Ohio. But there was a girl on there, I can't remember her name. I think she was really young. But went on this tirade about how Trump is racist, misogynistic, and of course brought up the bankruptcies. And I'm sitting there going, none of that is true. Not a single bit of what you just said is a fact. But she got her information from, who knows what liberal anchor talking head, that she listens to.
That RTT channel.
Yeah, that fucking resist the tyranny guy, liberal asshole that he is.
Him and his Facebook. No, it's true. Well, and that's the thing they do. They keep saying racist, and you'll see those channels, and they'll go, "Okay, well, what did he do that was racist?" And they're like, "Well, I just don't like him because of this," but they don't ever pinpoint down 1, 2, 3 reasons why.
Because he wants to build a wall. It's like, no, that's a legal issue, not a race issue.
Yeah. Well, that's like the thing about
it's a human rights issue, right? I mean, that's what we hear.
If you're not trying to do something, you'll never fail. But if you're actually trying to do something, there may be the possibility of failing. Hashtag basically bankruptcy, right? So at least the guy was trying, and he did it for good reasons anyways. That's because of the tax breaks and the way it was designed. So he's just a smart son of a bitch. And that's what we need. But he does say stupid shit, kind of like me sometimes.
I think it's actually gained its popularity. I actually believe it has.
In the beginning, it definitely did. We all wanted. He was saying stuff that we all were saying under our breath.
Yeah, but I'm still not really seeing where he's saying anything that bad. It's just that the media take that one little tidbit of a 45-minute speech and say, "So, boop, he said that." Not the whole context of the speech, just that one line.
Yeah, well, that's because they want to present him in a certain way, and it helps paint that picture. That's it.
I'm sure if somebody went back, watched this
But,
chat.
TR, I keep getting back to that, the Republicans that don't like him. And, I've never seen a Republican run. I don't even really consider Trump a Republican per se, but running on the Republican Party that is disliked by a pretty good percentage of his own party, and I mean that's really a tough thing to deal with in my mind, and that's I think that's something that's going to work against him when it comes to general debates coming up starting in September, and all that is you have a difficult time rallying your own party around you. Some of these people because he's not a professional politician and he's not chosen to play the game. So he has to really put that in the. He has to be very careful how he presents that front. He could be very strong and say, well, of course I don't play that game, so of course they don't like me. All the more reason that you should be voting for me out there. If I'm pissing off both sides, I'm probably doing something right. But yet at the end of the day, you still got to work with these people if you do get elected, and that's my concern.
Well, I mean, I would rather had Ron Paul won the election, hell, in 2008 for that matter, but the Republican Party needs to change. It's either going to change or it's going to split. So I'm not sure that Trump, I ain't saying that Trump's the man to do it, but the Republican Party has become neocons and rhinos. There's very few actual conservatives in the Republican Party. You had the people out here, us, that are, if you want to say conservative or whatever, but all you got is rhinos and neocons. It's all the same freaking thing. I mean, technically, I guess you could say, you know, that Trump's a rhino, Republican in name only. But, I mean, just like all the crap with Paul Ryan here just in the last week, the Republican Party needs a shake-up. And I think Trump's, I ain't saying it's the right direction, but he's gathered up the majority of the Republican voters and headed them in a different direction. It's a direction. It may not be the right direction, but it's a different direction. Because the Republican Party is just like the Democratic Party is splitting right now with your Bernie Sanders people and your Hillary people. See, that party's splitting up. And the same thing's going to happen to the Republican Party if they don't get on board. The ones that's not getting on board is your people that's got blind eyes and they're just listening to the news, and then the establishment Republicans, they're establishment. It don't matter if it's the Democrat, Republican, or who. It's all about them, establishment, power, money, power over us. Just they're like royalty, and that's what they consider themselves. And that shit's got to change.
Yeah, I think we are seeing the split. No, I think we are seeing the split. You know, because, like you said, conservatives, conservatives not to be confused with Republicans. You know, because like Ronald Reagan said, isn't conservatism the same as libertarianism? You know, less government, stay out of my business.
Of course.
You know, and then we have Republicans, and you might as well not even call them rhinos and neocons. They're fucking Republicans, because that's what the Republican Party is. You know.
Well, the Democrat Party.
But you've seen the split off.
Well, the Democrat party's had the sharp edges knocked off of it too. If you don't think the Democrat Party is different than the one that was in the 60s and 70s that had the liberal agenda and more of this and more of that, they've had their horns knocked off a bit too. We have a much more centrist sort of. To me, the differences between these parties have really, you know, they're losing their differences a lot. To me, yes, there's the standout people on both sides, but by and large, it seems to me the centers of both parties are pretty much conjoined in here in the way that they think and the stuff that they believe. I think it's equally on the Democrat side too that times have sort of and lack of resources have sort of shave their horns a bit too on stuff that they would have liked to have done. Some of the more liberal people to get elected on agendas of bigger government and more government, and you don't really hear that on a Democrat platform anymore. It's like a kiss of death.
What, more government? You don't hear?
You'll hear more regulation, but you won't hear people talking about new programs and new things that the government should be engaged in and new activities. It's just hyper regulation seems to be their thing of existing things now.
Well, the government's expanded about I shouldn't even say it like this, but it's been expanded almost to its limit. Now the only thing they have these massive alphabet soup agencies. They have these these massive other things and all their czars and people that are unelected and people that are appointed and all this other stuff. Now the only thing they have left. They've accomplished that. That expansion of government. Now it's okay. We have the people in place. Now it's time to regulate the shit off of you.
Big government.
Yeah, they got all the agencies set up. So to expand the government, you just keep adding employees. I read an article today, something about how much the government employees has increased in the last 10 years. It was, broke records and all that shit as always, but yeah, and that's probably one of the things that's even making the unemployment numbers even more. I mean, I guess technically that makes them a little bit, they're still correct to a certain degree, but if the government's adding jobs, that's not really adding to the workforce of the country.
Actually, the Wall Street Journal in 2000 and in as late as 2014, the federal government now employs the fewest number of people since. Let me get this headline here. The real growth is in the state and local, went from about 4 million to 16 million people. But the federal government employs the fewest people since 1966 because so much has been shifted off to the state and local governments. That's where the real quiet growth is coming in government. I know in just the place I live, over 18 years I've been here, the local government is exploding.
Yeah, the number I seen today, it was 2.47 million people in the civilian workforce for the federal government, and you're probably right, yeah, because I know I've seen the numbers, and as far as this government workers, it's a lot higher than
I'm putting it in
but it
the
gets
side
into the
chat.
state.
Yeah, they just shifted. Because how many times did you hear over the last 20 years we need to, well, I can't put that, I'll put that on the inside and you can repost it on the outside if you want, but how many times did we hear that we've got to put stuff to the local level? We got to take education off of the federal thing. We got to push it down to the state level, and it was a way to keep the money flowing to the federal government. But they could still parse it out to people in the states. They still had a lever. They still had a whip over the local government, but they had fewer people to sort of crack the whip. But state and local has just been, went from 4 million to like 16. It's been crazy.
And then a lot of that's probably subsidized by the federal government. So
I'm almost to the point where, we got 3 branches of government. And that includes the Supreme Court. Backstory. Sorry. The reason I'm even saying this is because somebody out in the chat room said, BuzzT48 said they don't study the Constitution, they only read what other judges said about it. And I hate to say it like this, but I don't know. Just before I'm burned at the stake by everybody, hear me out. I'm almost to the point where I say, fuck it, let's rewrite the Constitution. With a caveat. Everything stays the same, but the wording of everything is expanded only based upon the actual writings of the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers.
Yeah, I'm shaky. Be careful when you have that constitutional convention. I'm not sure we have the Jeffersons,
Well, that's why I say the caveat is it can, like when you have a Article 5 convention, it is, we're going to talk about this. This is the only thing we're going to change, and that's legally binding. That's the only thing they can change. And I don't know if it's possible. But I think the only way that we can keep this whole like Supreme Court bullshit, because I think Supreme Court's the biggest waste of air that we have, beyond the president, beyond Congress, beyond anything, because it's people that are appointed by somebody with a political agenda. Therefore, their interpretation of the Constitution can't be trusted. But if there's no longer a reason to interpret it, and like the Second Amendment is rewritten exactly the way it's written now, but then there's like four sentences attached to it based upon the description from the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers and the exact quoted writings from the founders, I think we would end up in a position where there is no more need to question, or there's no more need for interpretation by somebody like the Supreme Court, because it's in black and white English. It's right there. You can't interpret it. Just thinking out loud.
Yeah, I bet if they had a constitutional convention today, it would be far worse what came out of it than we have right now. And then somebody said when the libtards got a hold of it.
Yeah, I'm afraid it would have to be a big culling of America, and hopefully the cream rose to the top and could redo it.
Yeah, I hope so. Good Lord, that's usually born out of strife and war and everything else, not out of selfish motivations and things. You know, I mean, those guys tended to rise above to put the welfare of the majority ahead of their own and give up some of their own rights and things.
Yeah, unfortunately, what makes a successful businessman today, and I don't mean somebody that's like a construction owner, construction company owner or something like that, based on corporate America. I'm just talking corporate America. What they consider smart, how to run a business and stuff like that, those ain't the same guys that was running those farms and stuff way back when. Those guys, your Jeffersons and Franklins and stuff like that.
You had to be a person of means and accomplishment to be in that group. It wasn't, Thomas Jefferson was a proponent that you had to have a stake in the country to be a voter in it. You had to be a person of property and means. You had to have a real stake in some skin in the game, so to speak, to have a say in it. And, there's a lot to be said for that.
Well,
maybe not as democratic as some people would like, but it kept the people that, the cream rose to the top anyway.
Well, in kind of what I'm basing that on, and you know what I'm talking about, Rosie, is the way a lot of businesses work nowadays, corporations and stuff like that. It's all about cooking the numbers, and not all of it, but a lot of it, as far as because you got your stocks and stuff. You make your stocks go up, cook the numbers, you get your stock price go up. That makes income for you. But back then, if you grew this crop and you didn't sell it, you didn't make no fucking money. I don't care how you cooked your books. You didn't have the cash in your hand, so you didn't have no money.
Yeah, sorry, Kimball. It wasn't Hoover. Hoover wanted to hold the line and keep government small and government out of people's business. It was the New Deal under Roosevelt that was the game changer. That was the big kickoff of socialism in America.
What's that deal with South Carolina, Matt?
What's the deal with South Carolina?
Yeah, you put a...
No, SC, Supreme Court.
Oh.
No, because Gimp asked, how do you misinterpret shall not be infringed? I said the Supreme Court does it all the time. And the point in me saying what I was saying about defining everything based on what the writings of the Federalists, Anti-Federalists, the writings of the founders is to get rid of the Supreme Court, to get rid of that ability for the politicians to appoint somebody with a political agenda that will interpret it the way their political agenda skews. That's the only reason I said it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's people out there that understood that, but that's the only reason I said it.
Well, it makes more sense. South Carolina and Supreme Court. I was like, right after you said them, okay.
Yeah, I was backing up like, what the hell did he say?
I know.
I
Like,
know South Carolina don't have the most. They don't have the best gun laws, but they ain't too bad here.
I know. I was thinking, well.
No, we sit here and we know what the founders meant. We know what there is no interpretation for us. Especially, look at the Second Amendment, shall not be infringed. We get it. We understand that. We're also geniuses in comparison about, 60% or more of the country.
Yeah, well, you have to have resist the tyranny satellite organizations around the country to educate these morons.
Well, I mean, they pass bills nowadays, kind of on subject, maybe a little bit off. They pass bills nowadays. I mean, hell, look at Obamacare or the Patriot Act. We're talking, you got to have a damn set of hand trucks, 14 translators to do all this code. And this is the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, and that's all the government was supposed to go by. That right there. That's it. Not a hand truck full of fucking for a book.
Yeah, and they do everything at night and while we're asleep and pass laws that.
And it's not that maybe some amendments didn't need to be changed from the original. Don't get me wrong. But it still should have been, once it was changed, it was a paragraph, not a book. It's like, what, we need to kind of change that or do that. Okay, well, let's just make it this way now. Not a book to replace that paragraph. And, of course, we're all preaching to the choir. I mean, just like Matt said, it's in black and white. It's not up for interpretation. It says what it means. What they wanted it to say, it says. But there again, here we're talking to a country that's, Bill Clinton went on for a day talking about what the definition of is, and got away with it.
Yeah, and Gimp, where did that go? Gimp said we need term limits for Supreme Court justices as well as Senate and House. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more.
Yeah, making that a lifetime post, that was stupid. Yeah.
Well, you have the consent of the United States Senate. That was your sort of check and balance on that. I mean, we've had Supreme Court justices that didn't make it through the Senate approval process, right? It was the one that Reagan appointed that got Bush or whoever, Bork. I mean, people don't survive it sometimes. Senate's still a very powerful check on the Supreme Court. These goofballs like, the hell's her name? Who's that one?
I can't remember their names.
I don't know, that squirrely one, that little one with the black hair, the googly eye glasses, that, I don't know. The one that called Trump out that he said she should resign. What's her name? Ginsburg. Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That's the one.
Another thing besides term is any law they put into place, they need to abide by as well. This whole, okay, this works for all you guys, but not for us is bullshit.
You don't like that, Rick?
No. That's kind of like California and the. Well, you guys shouldn't be able to carry guns, but we should be able to carry guns. Same bullshit.
Yeah, I've said it before. I know it'll never go anywhere, but I think any state that wants to pass a gun restriction, it has to be statewide. That means anybody in that state, like if they say you can't have more than 10 rounds in your magazine, that means the police, National Guard, that might be pushing it, but hey, it's a law. If you're on this state ground, if I can't have a 10-round magazine, you can't have it. I know it'll never happen, but I'm just saying it would give them incentive not to do that bullshit.
Well, that's why, and I know I've explained this before, that's why I don't like Remington. That's why I refuse to give Remington any money, is because back after Sandy Hook, when they were talking about all these gun laws, all these major manufacturers told the government, we will not sell to the military or police anymore if that's how you're going to be. If the people can't have it, then neither can you, except Remington. Remington fucking plowed right through there and says, oh, we'll take all the fucking government contracts we can get, you know?
Yeah. Wasn't Armalite a big component of not basically telling them to screw off?
I think Armalite, Beretta, there was several. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to hold your ground when you're when the Constitution is at stake. You know.
I can't say they were the first, but I know wasn't it Barrett that when California started passing those laws about, I guess, the Barretts or 50 cals or whatever, that they refused to sell to the police and stuff. I said, okay, boom, you're done.
Well, I think New York and New Jersey have always led the way in gun restrictions and things, and I think they take the helm on all this stuff behind Hillary. All the money, a lot of the money that supports her comes out of those two places, that it's California, New York, and New Jersey, Massachusetts, and Maryland.
What do you guys think about welfare and drug tests?
Welfare and drug tests.
As a condition?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not.
I figure everybody that's working's got to be randomly drug tested.
I had to take a drug test to get my job.
Yeah, if I got to take a drug test to get my job, you should have to take a drug test to get my money.
Exactly. Sitting on the couch fucking watching Bonanza when you.
Well, I say you can only collect. I think they were correct to set the number of years that you could collect benefits. That was it. That was capped. That was a. I never thought in a million years I'd see something like that. But that came into force.
Yeah, I was surprised they done that too.
Yep.
Well, what do they extend it to? A year or longer, or what was it?
No, I think it's 5 years for your life. You know, unless some other situation occurs. And now I know in California, when you collect things like Medi-Cal, and they have a right to claw back when you die if there's any assets or any inheritance. And
oh, they get their money back, huh?
Yeah, you sign a contract when you go with Medi-Cal. You agree to that. You sign that paperwork, that clawback provision, and they've been getting some money back too. So people who put property in other people's names for purposes of evasion, for being able to collect benefits, eventually they try to push it back to the original person's estate or whatever, and it just gets taken at that point.
See, what welfare is not a right. So, as far as restricting it with drug tests, as far as all that stuff, you really can't say anything about it. I mean, if welfare was a right of the people, then that's a whole different conversation. But it's not. So, fucking test them.
And why can't they put more stipulations on what you can buy with your money for food-wise? Like, if you see someone pulling out lobster and steak and shit, and you got 2/3 of the normal working people eating regular, you know,
They started
macaroni.
to cut off. They started to cut off junk food and sodas and things like
Yeah,
that. And snack
smokes and all
food.
that other shit.
Yeah, they're starting to
And
do
those
that
guys want to
actually.
get back to work.
They're starting
Well,
to actually do that.
that's only for certain types of welfare. Like your what is
Like
that?
the EBIT card.
The EBT card.
Yeah.
It was 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. The 3 top places EBT cards were used were liquor stores, strip clubs, and porn stores. Those are the top 3 places EBT cards were
Yeah,
used.
see, none of that should even work.
Because it works like a fucking debit card. You know,
Yeah, that's all changed now.
And you know why it's a debit card, not stamps? Is because the people didn't want to feel embarrassed about using stamps. Well,
Yeah,
fuck
that's
that.
right.
Go back to
It was
work.
well, some people in some situations have not their own. I can understand. I mean, it was something about, I wouldn't have supported it. I think the stamps worked fine for many generations, and there was that subtle kind of incentive to not be standing in line and pulling off your Liberty Bell food stamps and out of your booklet. We've lost that now by making it look like a credit card that's being purchased. Yeah, there's subtle signals that were sent to people.
Yeah.
You
No, that makes sense. I understand that. There's people out there that really need it that are actually using it to survive. But then there's that, the crack dealers and shit that.
It's actually better, Rick, than it used to be because when you had stamps, the stamps were when I was growing up, the stamps were the currency in our neighborhood. You could you could sell them to somebody and get cash to put a bet down at Pimlico Racetrack or with the bookie. I mean, you could do all kinds of stuff with food stamps. It was amazing. You could get liquor. Once they put that card in, then you had a card reader that kept control because things would be scanned at the register and come out on the total of that. And then the EBT card, I've seen it actually. They'll stand there and tell them, well, you've got to pay. This is the amount you owe besides the EBT. This is the Coors beer that you bought or whatever. And then they reach in with their own money and pay for that.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. That might have curbed how the food stamps were being used because they were being used like cash.
Yeah. They were 60 to
like
80 cents, 60 to 80 cents on the dollar. If you were really hard up, 50 cents on the dollar.
Yeah, but if I give you my card and I tell you the PIN number, it's no different if you hand me $50.
Well,
but then you have to give your card up. They don't have to give it back. So what they do, this is what
it lost that liquidity. It lost that free flow transactions. Then you had to come back and give something back to somebody, and I'm sure there's still some swapping that's going on, but it's a lot harder. There's less ability to buy those things that aren't allowed, and there's more people that are willing to reach into their own pocket and pull out the money if they want the beer and all that stuff.
Yeah, from what I've heard, what people will do if they're wanting cash for what they got on their EBT card is they'd like go to the grocery store with them, pay them 50 cents on the dollar or whatever, buy $100 worth of groceries, pay them $50 or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they would have to kind of go there with them unless it's their frickin' sister or something that they can trust. But the way the old food stamps was, hell, you could sell them to anybody on the street, 50, 60 cents on the dollar.
I mean, that was a major currency in the community where I grew up with that.
Yeah, you could sell it to anybody and walk off, and it didn't matter. You didn't have your card and your PIN and all that shit,
Yeah, it's just sad.
Yeah, oh yeah, the whole system's all screwed up, but it's still not right. None of it is.
No.
Well, it can't be when you're giving something away. There's always going to be people gaming the system.
And unfortunately, with this younger generation, this shit with what's right and wrong and what you can do and say is getting worse and worse and worse. So I'll say it again. I'm ready for this shit to pop off so we could Start over.
Get this ball rolling.
So you can hit the woods there, TR, and start over again, Omega Man.
Fuck, his house is in the woods. You don't have to do shit.
That's what I'm saying, Alpha Man. Unleash those cocks on the property and go, baby. Go, baby, go.
Yeah, I need to build me a little, damn, I had the word in my head, I don't know, little platform on the roof of the house and just wait for people to try to walk up the driveway, you know?
You need a tower. You need a bell tower up there or something, a belfry. It's just air people to yard to come on.
Rosie, are you sanding your feet?
Yes.
No,
Yes.
no, I'm smoothing them with pad. I'm not sanding them. I'm not grinding them.
Get the belt sander out.
No, I had this friggin' blister that finally got all hard, and I'm just smoothing it down.
Hey, TR, at the bottom of your driveway, you got to get those exploding target things. Because usually law enforcement will park at the bottom and stage and kind of come up with a plan, so that that's where you can have some happiness happen. Like, why has TR got 3 mailboxes at the bottom of his driveway? I always thought that would be a good plan at my old house. But who am I?
Yeah. Yeah, never mind. As I say, it's too bad Tannerite, you gotta like mix it up and use it in a certain time. It'd be nice if it's kept for months or years. Have that shit just staged up.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody? You guys see my my latest video about my kids shooting IDPA with me? I'm pretty excited about that.
I didn't see. You didn't show him shooting, did you?
No, my wife won't go for any of that
Smart.
shit.
Yeah, that's fine. Well, I seen where you bought him a gun.
Yeah, that's the video. But he shot that same course that day. He did good. There was a couple guys that he beat actually at the end. I mean, he was set third to last, but he had a great time. And on the way home, and the next couple days, he's like, "When are we going again?" So I think I created a monster, which is good. I want to get him into 3-gun, but we'll see what happens. But it was a proud moment for me. That's why I'm excited.
I bet. That's great, Rick.
Yeah, it was cool. I felt good. It was kind of cool too because I got to be the range officer for him. So that was cool. I got to run around with him with the timer and stuff.
Just so Matt can give you shit, he bought his son a HK, Matt.
Yeah, VP9. H&K.
I know. I watched the video, and once you mentioned the HK VP9, I was like, yeah, this is over.
So you missed all the good information. Matt's a Closet Is Your 6 covered fan.
No,
he watches the first 1 second and then turns it off just for the view.
Well, at least he knows you makes videos, unlike Blue.
No, that was the running joke for a while. He makes videos, and he used to do that shit to me all the time.
Then there's the poor bastard that won the judo medal, got beat up while celebrating on the beach in Copacabana. The fucking headline today. Dude, what happened to your skills, you know? They just took you out right there on the beach. Shit. Oh, you guys watching the Olympics at all? It's kind of fun. Big night again tonight, swimming.
Yeah, I just ruined it for 4 other people. I told them that somebody won the gold that they're going to be watching in about an hour, and they're like, "You son of a bitch!" Yeah. I'm like, "It ain't my fault. I didn't know."
That's it. Big night in the pool.
Big night in the pool. Yeah, we watched some of it yesterday. But yes, man, I did.
Michael Phelps, the old dude, his second gold at the Olympics. Christ, he's got what, 20 gold medals now? Shit.
Yeah. The U.S. is pretty much cleaning house, though.
They're doing good.
Yeah, the U.S. is last I saw they had almost twice the medals of any other country.
Yeah, China's about right up there with gold, but overall they're doing great.
And the first one was the best one. It was for
Track
sheep.
and field for U.S. is strong, and that in team sports and all that. I don't know about show jumping and dressage and all those the country club sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, this informant agent person out there said the Olympics are a joke. Did you hear her speech? We are all one. Commie talk. To my knowledge, wasn't the Olympic rings, weren't they based on a communist idea?
5 continents. I don't know participation.
Yeah, for the rings.
Could have been.
I haven't heard
Whenever
that.
it was come up with, like 5 of the biggest countries in the world or
Well,
continents.
it was 5 continents: North America, South America, Europe, Australia, and Asia. That was the 5 rings. Antarctica was not quite represented at that time.
They were busy scraping ice off the windshield.
That's it. Chasing penguins, cleaning up penguins.
Yeah,
shit
cleaning up
around
the
the
penguins
coast.
again.
Don't you know Antarctica is not a continent? It's the crust around the flat Earth.
Shit.
That's what ties it all together and make it look like a circle.
Thank you, Professor Matt.
I think Rosie's answer on the rings is probably the most close to right. Then commie ring Hitler. I don't know. I haven't heard that before, but fact is I don't know shit.
I just know their motto was like higher, faster, stronger, alto, something. It was something in Latin they had.
Isn't that how they get to America? Faster.
Stronger, higher,
Do you guys see that?
faster.
Did you guys see the fake tweet? And it was fake, anybody that has seen it, of Donald Trump saying that he was rooting for, or he was looking forward to the high jump, the Mexican high jump or something, because they're going to need it.
Oh, God. Jesus.
Yo, what's the longest pole they make in Olympics? Okay, we need the wall to be this much taller.
And my reply was, that Mexico is going to have a hard time in track and field because all the good runners and jumpers are already here.
Yep, and swimmers.
That's Cubans.
Oh, yeah. We still got the Rio Grande you got to swim across.
Or walk across, step across.
Yeah, float across.
Yeah.
Like, how many bales of pot can you bring while you come across?
How about the fucking tunnels underneath?
Yeah, could you imagine working on one of those for however long it takes?
There's Midwest Misfit.
Mm-hmm. I just want to, since bowling is an Olympic sport now, I had never watched it, but if they got the pictures of beer behind them, where they're taking score at and shit, it may be a legit sport. But that's the way I play.
You got to get warmed up and watch Woody Harrelson and Bill Murray and Kingpin. That's a great bowling flick.
Would you classify The Big Lebowski as a bowling movie?
Yeah, and this wasn't as direct as Kingpin, which was a real riot, but yeah, it's a bowling movie too.
Okay, because I'd almost have to put them on the same level then. For me.
Yeah, they're definitely not on my top picks.
Oh, you laugh your ass off if you saw Kingpin again.
Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's good, but it ain't.
Yeah,
It's
I
the
mean,
only
other
reason
than milking the bull,
No, he's
that
bowling,
in
and
that movie.
his hand is rolling down in the bowling ball down the.
Have you seen the movie where the guys are inside of an elephant? I think it just came out or it's coming out, and they're like spies. And then there's this. You gotta check this out. I'm gonna have to go ask the guys. Well, anyways,
Come
they're
on,
hiding
Rick, are you
inside
fucking dreaming?
of an elephant. No, I'm gonna find you the link right now. Let me go talk to these guys. You'd be amazed at all the weird shit I hear from all these young guys. Hold on, give me 2 minutes, and I'm gonna send you guys a link.
Get that drug testing out again.
Yeah.
Did they make it legal for firefighters to do drugs in California?
Yeah, they huff the canned air now. Boy, oh boy, for cleaning PCs, that's a good high, huh? Like the first dumbass who started sniffing glue and stuff. Oh, this is great, you know.
Chris says, does anyone do whippets anymore, or was that an 80s cheap high? That didn't stop at the 80s. I'm just saying.
All right, I'm finding this now.
No, I'm not sanding my elbow. Sorry, Gib. Little bastard been irritating me all day. Thanks, Southern. Yeah, canned whipped cream. I've heard all kinds of canned propellants now and shit are being used.
All right, since we're on the subject and Rick is looking for this imaginary movie about people living in an elephant's butthole, years and years and years ago, there was a big 3-day weekend party. I can't remember what 3-day weekend it was, but yeah, we did more chemical substances than what a human being probably should. I mean, Keith Richards would have been proud. But we had this guy convinced that Pam cooking spray would get you high. And he was spraying that shit up his fucking nose, trying to get high off of it, just running down his face, and we're just laughing and laughing. He's like, what?
Can they hear us?
They can now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he'd been a good one to convince that.
Okay.
Dang.
You guys, this will be fun for everybody watching your faces. Click on that link. It's 2 minutes long, and tell me that shit ain't funny. Wait till you see the comments from all you guys. Have fun with that. You might not be able to sleep tonight.
I'll save it for later. Okay. I think I got it pulled up. Trying to make me open too many damn windows. I'm freezing up
Look at
enough
Matt's
as it
face
is,
already.
Rick.
He's going, what the hell just happened? Here you go, guys.
Fucking
I put it in the external, too. Look at Matt's face. Tell me that shit ain't funny.
Oh, shit.
Is it foreign film?
That's right. That shit's real.
Oh, no.
I'm making Matt blush, just so you guys know. Now, that's crazy.
That's
shit.
pretty fucking funny right there.
Dude, you thought you wanted to be an FBI spy.
You got me. That's pretty fucking good right there. Yeah. Shit.
Look at all these guys are all, what the fuck? What were you saying about a fake? What were you saying about a fake movie and elephants? Look at Matt. Come on, talk to me, Matt.
Oh shit! Oh god!
Yeah, that came out a little bit. It's a pretty new movie. I've actually seen that movie.
Oh. Wow.
Oh shit! I was on the business end of that.
I will never be able to unsee that.
Yeah, Rick, I am a little sad. I saw that right now. Oh shit! Yeah, there's Julia. Hi, Julia.
All right. Well, we're around the 2-hour mark. Unless somebody else got another subject, somebody else crawling in some kind of animal. Or
I got a new toy that I'm going to do a review on, and I completely forgot about it doing the intro at the beginning of the evening. Some people have already seen. I'm a big fan of Cold Steel. Cold Steel, the knives and swords and machetes. I've used this kukri a lot. I love this thing. It's my go-to blade. Always been impressed with that. Just got this in the mail a couple of days ago, and it's the Cold Steel cutlass machete. And this is a machete that is based off a cutlass sword, and a little bit thinner blade than what a sword would be. But I can't wait to try this thing out. So far, I'm fully impressed with it. Just messing around with it a little bit.
I'm just glad I'm on your team. See that shit. Identify yourself at the perimeter.
So yeah, be on the lookout for a review for that. And I contacted Cold Steel too to tell them about it.
yeah, man needs him a good, not necessarily a sword, but damn near a sword. I mean, I got a sword, but I think you gotta have one just in case. If I'm gonna get in a knife fight, I want you to be about 2 or 3 foot away from me.
It's not much of a knife fight at that point. It's just swinging blades at each other.
Yeah. Well, hopefully he ain't got one. I'm just saying, if I come across somebody that's got a knife in their hand, I want to come at them with a 3-foot sword.
Yeah, so I'm thoroughly impressed with just the construction of it, and of course they're carbon steel blades and all that. But if it performs nearly as well as that kukri does, great investment.
Yeah, I think for the money, the cold steel blades, they're a good deal. Yeah.
That's not a knife.
That's a knife.
Yes. I keep my zombie knife right here. That's 4150 steel. I know it's not the best steel in the world, but it's pretty good.
Better than aluminum.
No, this is a real one here.
No, better than aluminum.
Yeah, a little better than aluminum. I saw videos they actually slammed through a 55-gallon drum with this. It did start chipping the blade a little bit, but the ridge on a 55-gallon drum, they cut through one of those with the company that made this one.
That's pretty tough to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real hard resin plastic. Now I should know from doing moonshine.
This ain't a flea market $40 one. I paid almost $300 for this. That's why I said the cold steel are a really good blade for the money.
Yeah. And they got a whole line of machetes that I'd like to check out. They got some swords, of course. They're swords, $200, $300, but they're functional. But they're still less money than some other sword manufacturers out there. Their knives are good. I mean, the Spartan knife, that's one of my bucket list knives. I'd love to get that Spartan knife, but I'm not paying $70 for a knife right now.
Hey, TR, do you know what the short ninja swords called?
Not off.
You know how they come in a set of two sometimes? There's a short one.
Yeah, I don't know the name of. That's a katana. That's all I know.
I've got one of the short. I got the set, the long and the short one. They're in my closet, but I can't remember if it's just the short katana or what. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I know some of those are sharp as hell. Where's Fat Man when you need a knife question? Baby sword, Rick.
Well, JB Coyne said Tanto. Tanto is more of a style.
What's the point, isn't it?
Yeah, Tanto's the tactical cat's laying on my box full of knives right now. But
Maybe this one. No, that's not Tanto.
you know, Tanto is a style of point, if I remember correctly, not the name of a particular knife.
How about a ninjato?
They are called kitties.
Interesting.
The short one's just a big knife, and then when you
Oh,
get the
this
long
fits
one,
in.
it's
Nope.
a sword.
Tanto is the actual name of the smallest style of katana.
Hey, but hell, I got a Kershaw Tanto that's a pocket
Yeah,
knife.
they must use it. They must use it as a generalized term now because I've got 3 or 4 knives with a Tanto blade, on it, and that's what they call it. And that's that little bit of a curve with like the 45-degree angle on the point.
Yeah, it's longer on the top than the bottom. Tanto is a sword. Oh, look at Misfit throwing out some shit. The Wakashishi. Zashi. I'm sure I'm killing that word, but... Oh, we screwed it up talking about it in the West.
I'm gonna get mine out real quick.
On Top Shot, they shoot that thing. You know, the sword. Is it Top Shot? No, it's that blade one. What's that blade? That new show where they make blades. They compete, and at the end they shoot it with like a 45. Try to split a bullet.
Here we go. So, but Tanto is like the dagger version of a katana. So that would be what I have right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that knife right there. It's one of my more favorite knives right here. It's heavy. You guys probably can't tell how thick that blade is, but this thing weighs a lot for just being a knife.
So what TR's got must be the.
He's muted and talking.
Hell yeah. One of these days I'm gonna get the hang of this shit. But anyway. Anyhow, HRM was talking about this because it's a 4150 steel. This one's heat treated. The edge, just the edge, is a lot harder than the rest of the blade. They put a paste on it so they can dual temper it. So the spine have a little bit of flex to it. Because if they harden the whole thing and you slammed it up against something hard, it could shatter or break. So they made it where it has a little flex, but yet the edge holds the edge really good because they hardened it. So, like I said, it's not a high dollar now. I think it was like $250 plus shipping or whatever. I mean, it was handmade in China.
Yeah, my swords set like that is the show ones. I think I paid $60 for them or something with the stand to show them the short one and the long one. Yeah, if you ever slam that up against something, they'll probably wrap around it like a noodle. You know, make a better whip than a sword.
Well, I need that app on my computer to where like you need to blow into a breathalyzer before you order shit online.
You should seriously invent that shit. You'd probably be a freaking millionaire. Because I know one time when my wife was gone in Vegas, I sat around the house and drank a few drinks, and I started buying shit off the TV. I'm like, yeah, why not buy one of them inflatable RC cars? You know,
Yeah,
just
well, you can look behind me for proof of drinking on eBay and things.
See, for me, it's not drinking and it's not drugs. I just have
electronic.
I get on an off air with Misfit and I spend money.
He's a good salesman.
I spend money. That man and a couple of other of our friends have spent more of my money than I can count.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I can't say I regret all of them, but I have bought a lot of stuff. It's like, I really don't need this, but that'd be pretty cool to have. I've always wanted one of those. Check the bank account. Yeah, I can afford that.
Yeah, no problem. I don't get to eat tomorrow, but I'm good. I wasn't hungry anyways.
Priorities.
Yeah, I got an Amazon box in there I hadn't opened up yet. I got today. And I don't know, I didn't go wild or nothing like that, but I knew I got the notification on a text, and it says, you know, this cable come in, it's an antenna wire, and then I know there's one other thing, it's a programming cable for this radio over here. Anyway, it said the cable arrived and the other two items that you ordered, and I was telling the guy at work, I was like, I can't remember what the third thing was I ordered. It was just a couple of days ago.
That's what happens to me with medical supplies. Like, I'll always like buy some medical supplies off of Amazon to put in my kit, you know, tourniquets, stuff like that. And then, sure enough, it's always like, if you spend this amount of money, then the shipping on this other item that I wanted would be free, or I'd get it the next day for free or whatever. And it's always like 20 chem lights. And that's the one thing that I always forget. It's like, you just got 4 items. Like, I did? I ordered 4 things?
Like, what?
And then I open the box, like, oh yeah, the bag of chem lights.
Yeah, and the way they ship, sometimes you'll get one tiny little object in a big-ass box.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's so wasteful the way they send that stuff.
Yeah. You're like, why did you send me this big old box of air and a tiny little package?
Well, that's how this came in. The box was huge. I mean, this is, you know, fairly long anyway, but the box was huge, and it was like this thick, right? And it had to be almost a foot longer than what this is. And I'm like, damn. I didn't realize it was that big. Open it up, and it's like, you know, those airbags that they put in there. Yeah. It's like 20 of those airbags in this. It's like, oh, you just didn't have any other boxes to put it in. I see now.
Oh, yeah, I've definitely done that. Hell, I've kind of remembered ordering something, and I get the big box, and I'm like, damn, what the fuck did I order? Like you say, there's, you know, there's this in a big box like that.
Yeah, exactly. Then it's like, if you're going to send me a box this big, why don't you just throw some extra shit in it?
All right, guys. I think
Yeah, we need to go ahead and end this. Thanks Thanks everybody for coming checking the chat out. Thanks Rosie, Rick, and Matt for coming on the chat. I'm gonna let y'all do an outro right quick, and I'll start with Matt.
Thanks for having me on, TR. Thanks to the people out in the chat room. There was some good conversation out there as well. Check out Resist Tyranny, Guns, Gear, and Politics. Look for the review of that. Hopefully I can make it this weekend, actually. But the review of that Cold Steel Cutlass Machete. And that's about it. Oh, and Friday. This Friday I'll be having my show, my chat, which is opposite of the Conundrum every other Friday. And so be looking for that at 9 p.m. Eastern.
All right. Yep, I'll be there. And thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Rick, would you like to do an outro?
I sure would. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thanks, TR, for inviting me. And thank all you guys out there in the external that I got to show the elephants to. So if you missed it, I reposted it so you guys can rewatch that disaster and not be able to sleep tonight. But you guys take care. I appreciate you supporting TR. And have a great night.
Thanks, Rick. Appreciate you coming on, man. Rosie, do an outro, please.
Yes, thank you for supporting TR, all of you out there and listen. Always a lot of fun, TR, Matt. Like it when you're here, Rick. Feel like we got the full panel here. It's really a fun time. And I do a Wednesday and Saturday night chat. Everybody's welcome. It gets a little wild sometimes, but it usually has a lot of laughs. On my Rosie O'Kelly channel, we went shotgun shopping last week. That video will be coming up. Started our preliminary shopping and getting a little feel for some of the shotguns. Also canned tomato spaghetti sauce for all you guys that are into cooking and doing metal detecting. There's a lot of stuff going on now, and there's going to probably be some moonshine vids come up. The full complement of summer fun is out there. So thanks again, Matt, for a good time, and Rick and TR, always fun. And side chat, thank you.
All right, sounds cool. And thanks for coming on, Rosie. It's always a pleasure to have you on here. I always enjoy your point of view on things, and then when we get off on our BS subjects, you're right there with us. So it's all cool. It's always a good chat. So I appreciate it. And just for the people still hanging out, my YouTube timeout that I got, the reason we're over here on the Mr. Funfisher channel, ends on September 6th. So they shortened that up. So next month I'll start doing them back on the TRprepper channel. So anyhow, that's the biggest news I got. So thanks for coming by. And
happy birthday, Rick.
Oh, appreciate it. Thanks. All you guys out there, make sure you get a chance. Check those smoke detectors and fire extinguishers. And I got to do my little safety thing here. Sorry, TR. Have a good one.
Replace the detector, too.
That's right.
So I didn't do it beforehand, but I'll go back and put everybody's link in the description, and there'll be some other channels in there that come in and out when they can. So y'all can find Rosie, Rick, and Matt on their regular channels. So look for that if you're trying to find them, if you hadn't already. And we'll see everybody later. Bye-bye.
Bye.